There comes a moment in life when you stop recognizing the person you've become. It's not dramatic. It's quiet. You wake up one morning and something just doesn't fit. The conversations you have feel scripted. The goals you used to chase don't move you anymore. Even your own voice sounds like it belongs to someone else. You try to shake it off. Blame exhaustion, stress, circumstance. But deep down, you know something deeper is shifting. You're not simply tired. You're done. Done with pretending. Done with living on autopilot. It's confusing, isn't it? You're surrounded by the same people, the same routine, yet everything feels slightly off. That's usually the first sign of an internal transformation, not fireworks, but disorientation. Psychologists call it an identity transition. Carl Jung described it as the beginning of individuation, the point where your deeper self starts to reclaim space from the roles you've been playing. Identity is useful. It helps us survive. But when identity becomes a cage, the psyche begins to push back. You start hearing that quiet voice that whispers, "This isn't me anymore." It doesn't mean something's wrong with you. It means your mind and your soul are no longer aligned with the story you've been telling. Most people mistake this for depression or burnout. And yes, it can look like both. But often what you're really feeling is ego collapse, the old version of you dissolving because it can no longer contain who you're becoming. You may notice resistance. That part of you that says, "I can't change. I've built too much around this life." That's the ego talking. It's not evil. It's just afraid. It believes safety lies in sameness. But sameness becomes suffering once your soul outgrows it. So when everything familiar starts to feel wrong, don't panic. Don't rush to fix it. Something far more intelligent than logic is unfolding. Jung said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." That's the discomfort you're feeling now, the friction between truth and illusion. If you've felt this, let me know in the comments below. Because you're not alone in this in-between stage, this strange gap where the old self is fading and the new one hasn't fully arrived. You're in the middle of the bridge. You can't go back, and you can't see the other side yet. But trust this, the bridge was built inside you for a reason. You start to drift through your days as if they belong to someone else. You go through motions that used to feel automatic and now feel absurd. You wonder why nothing excites you. Why every conversation feels like background noise. Why even joy seems quiet. This is the void. The space between who you were and who you are becoming. Most people rush to fill it. They pick new goals, new faces, new habits, anything to avoid the silence. But the silence is the classroom of transformation. It's where your mind rewires itself for truth. You've outgrown your own story, and the pages haven't caught up yet. It's normal to feel empty here, to question everything, to miss even the chaos that once exhausted you. You might even try to rebuild the old life just to feel something familiar. But deep down, you already know you can't go back. Because going back would mean shrinking again. So the void asks for patience. It teaches you to stay, to breathe through uncertainty without needing answers. You may think you've lost direction, but this stillness is guidance in disguise. When the old identity collapses, the ego panics. It tries to fix, define, control. It hates not knowing. But not knowing is where the soul speaks loudest. Listen. It doesn't speak in words, but in impulses, in resistance, in what drains and what lights you up. When something no longer feels alive, that's information. When a thought brings peace, that's direction. Let the void cleanse you of everything that's noise. And as the silence deepens, you'll meet the next stage, the conflict within. Part of you wants change. Another part clings to safety. It's the tug-of-war between growth and fear, between who you were and who you're meant to be. You'll feel torn in half. One voice will say, "Don't ruin what you've built." Another whispers, "You can't pretend anymore." This tension is sacred. It's how transformation begins to crystallize. Every decision feels heavy here. Every thought loops. You overanalyze, replay, regret. That's the mind trying to stay in control. But evolution isn't mental. It's biological, emotional, spiritual. You can't think your way out of becoming. You'll notice people reacting to your shift. Some pull closer. Others distance themselves. They feel your change and don't know how to meet you anymore. It hurts. You want to explain, but you can't put awakening into language. You're not the same, and that's uncomfortable for everyone. Yet this is the test. Can you stay true to what's rising in you, even if it costs your comfort, even if it confuses others? The old self will whisper that you're making a mistake. But mistakes are how truth is refined. Every shedding feels wrong at first. Every beginning looks like loss. But nothing real can be lost. Only what was never truly you. So breathe through the resistance. The fear of disappointing people. The guilt for choosing peace. You're not betraying anyone. You're honoring what's finally honest. And as you keep walking, you'll notice something subtle, a shift beneath the exhaustion. You start to crave quiet, not to escape, but to connect. You begin to see patterns, how everything that fell apart was making space for alignment. The conflict softens. The ego stops shouting. And somewhere inside, a calm voice says, "This is what it means to come home." Something inside you changes. Not suddenly. Not all at once. At first it feels like stillness, then like relief. You start noticing small things, how morning light hits the wall, how your breath feels softer, how silence no longer scares you. You realize the worst part is over. The chaos was the cleansing. What remains now is truth. You begin to understand that nothing you lost was ever meant to stay. It served a version of you that no longer exists. The people who left made space for peace. The endings that broke you opened doors to integrity. And slowly, you stop craving what you had. You start craving what's real. You no longer search for validation. You look for resonance. You no longer chase noise. You crave alignment. This is what awakening feels like in real life, not dramatic, not mystical, but calm, like the world finally stopped spinning and you can see straight again. You notice that you speak slower. You listen better. You answer less. Because presence no longer feels optional, it feels sacred. The pain that once ruled you turns into understanding. You see why it had to happen. Without loss, you'd never have looked inward. Without collapse, you'd never have built truth. Jung called this process individuation, becoming who you really are. It's not about perfection. It's about wholeness. Accepting both the light and the shadow that lives within it. And you realize the goal was never to find yourself. It was to stop being who you are not. All the masks, the roles, the versions you performed, they fall away like old skin that no longer fits. And underneath, you find simplicity. You find honesty. You find quiet strength. You don't need to prove anymore. You don't need to earn peace. You just stop fighting it. The mind will still wander, the ego will still whisper. But now you know the difference between fear and intuition, between attachment and love. When your soul leads, life becomes lighter. Not because pain disappears, but because meaning returns. Even when it hurts, you feel guided. Even when it's uncertain, you feel held. You stop asking, "When will it get easier?" and start asking, "What is this moment teaching me?" This shift is what transformation really looks like. You start seeing synchronicities, signs, timing, patterns not as miracles, but as mirrors. The world reflects your inner state. The more aligned you are, the kinder life becomes. And sometimes, you'll still feel lost. But this time, you'll recognize it as growth, not failure. Because evolution repeats itself. Every few years, you'll meet another threshold, another layer of letting go. And you'll remember what you've learned now, that confusion is not the enemy. It's the language of becoming. When you no longer recognize yourself, it means the story is turning. The soul is writing a new chapter. You're not the same person you were, and that's the point. You were meant to change. To keep unfolding, to keep shedding, to keep returning home to the self that never left you. So don't fear this version of rebirth. Stand in it. Let it rewrite you. Because one day soon, you'll look in the mirror again, and this time, you'll recognize yourself completely. Not the self shaped by survival, but the one shaped by truth. You'll see eyes that are softer, but stronger. A face that carries peace, not performance. And you'll know the journey was worth every step. You were never falling apart. You were falling into alignment. Thank you for being here with me. Take care of your heart. And may love always guide your path.